Daeho Kim was having a normal Tuesday morning until the sky turned purple. He stood on the sidewalk in Seoul, coffee in hand, watching as massive ships descended through the clouds. They were bigger than skyscrapers, their metal surfaces reflecting the morning sun like mirrors. All around him, people stopped walking. Some screamed. Others pulled out their phones to record. Daeho just stared, unable to move his feet. The ships landed in every major city across the world. Within hours, the news was full of reports. Aliens had arrived. They called themselves the Valen. They came in peace, or so they said. Their message was broadcast in every language on Earth. They wanted humans to join their empire. Not as slaves or servants, but as partners. As equals, Daeho did not believe it. Nobody did. But the Valen were not asking permission. They were simply announcing their presence. 3 days later, Daeho stood in a crowd of thousands near City Hall. The Valen had invited humans to come and meet them. Most people stayed home, too afraid to go. But Daeho was curious. He had always been curious about things he did not understand. As a software engineer, he spent his days solving puzzles and finding patterns. This was the biggest puzzle of his life. The Valen soldiers walked among the crowd. They were tall, much taller than any human. The females stood at least 2 meters high, with broad shoulders and strong muscles. They wore armor that looked like it was made from black crystal. Their skin had a slight gray tone and their eyes were sharp and bright. They looked powerful, dangerous. One of them approached Daeho. She was taller than the others, with short silver hair and scars across her arms. Her armor had red markings that seemed to glow. She stopped directly in front of him, looking down at his face. Daeho felt his heart pounding in his chest. He could barely breathe. She spoke in perfect Korean. Her voice was deep and commanding. What is your name? Daeho swallowed hard. Daeho Kim. The alien woman studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved from his face to his hands, then back to his eyes. She seemed to be looking inside him, reading something he could not see. Finally, she placed a hand on her chest and spoke again. I am Commander Nari of the Valen Elite Guard. I claim you as my chosen mate. You will come with me. The words did not make sense at first. Daeho blinked. What? Nari did not repeat herself. She simply waited, her expression calm and confident. Around them, other Valen were making similar declarations to other humans. Some people tried to run. The soldiers did not chase them. They only watched. A man next to Daeho shouted.
He doesn't want to go with you.
Leave him alone. It was Minho Park, Daeho's best friend since college. Minho stepped between Daeho and the alien commander, his face red with anger. Nari looked at Minho the way someone might look at a small dog barking at them. Not angry, just mildly interested. Your friend is brave, Nari said to Daeho, but foolish. I mean no harm to your people. The selection process is voluntary. If you refuse, I will respect your decision. But I have chosen you, Daeho Kim. I believe you are compatible with me. Compatible for what? Daeho asked. His voice shook slightly. For bonding. For partnership. For creating a future together. Nari tilted her head slightly. Among my people, we call it the pairing. It is similar to what you call marriage, but deeper. More permanent. Daeho felt dizzy. This could not be real. Aliens did not just show up and propose marriage to random people. But here he was, standing in front of a warrior from another world who looked at him like he was precious, like he was important. Why me? He asked quietly. Nari's expression softened just a little. Because when I looked at this crowd of thousands, my instincts led me to you. We Valen trust our instincts. They have kept us alive for millions of years. My instincts tell me that you and I would be good together. Minho grabbed Daeho's arm. Don't do this. We don't know anything about them. They could be lying. They could hurt you. Daeho looked at his friend. Minho was right to be worried. But something strange was happening inside Daeho. He was not as afraid as he should be. When he looked at Nari, he did not see a monster. He saw someone who was being honest with him. Someone who was giving him a choice. What happens if I say yes? Daeho asked. You will come aboard my ship. You will learn our ways. I will learn yours. We will see if we are truly compatible. If at any point you wish to return to Earth, I will bring you back myself. You have my word as a commander. And if I say no, then I will leave you in peace. I will return to my ship alone. Nari paused. But I hope you will say yes. Daeho had spent his whole life playing it safe. He went to a good school, got a stable job, lived in a small apartment, His life was predictable. Boring, even. And now the universe was offering him something completely different. Something impossible. He took a deep breath. Okay, I'll go with you. Minho's eyes went wide. Daeho, no. Are you insane? Maybe, Daeho said with a weak smile. But I need to know. I need to understand what this is all about. Nari placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was surprisingly gentle for someone so strong. You have made a wise choice. I will protect you, Daeho Kim, this I swear. Within minutes, Daeho was walking toward the Valen transport ship. Minho followed them, arguing the whole way, begging Daeho to change his mind. Other humans watched from a distance, some crying, others cheering. Nobody knew what to think of the Valen. Nobody knew if this was the beginning of something wonderful or something terrible. As Daeho stepped into the ship, he turned back one last time to look at the city. Seoul looked small from here, fragile. He wondered if he would ever see it again. He wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Nari stood beside him, watching his face carefully. Do not be afraid, she said softly. You are not my prisoner. You are my choice. There is a difference. The doors closed behind them. The ship began to rise into the sky. Daeho felt his stomach drop as they lifted higher and higher, leaving Earth behind. He glanced at Nari, who stood tall and confident, her hand resting on the handle of a weapon at her side. She was right. He was not her prisoner, but as the blue sky turned to black space, Daeho realized something important. He had just tied his fate to this alien warrior. For better or worse, his life would never be the same again. And somewhere deep inside him, beneath the fear and confusion, there was a tiny spark of excitement. Maybe this was not a mistake. Maybe this was exactly where he was supposed to be. The Crimson Talon was not what Daeho expected. He had imagined cold metal halls and sterile rooms like in science fiction movies. Instead, the ship felt alive. The walls seemed to pulse with a soft red glow. The air was warm and smelled like something he could not identify. Sweet but not flowery. Ancient somehow. Nari led him through wide corridors. Valen soldiers stopped what they were doing to stare at him. Some looked curious. Others looked angry. One female warrior spat on the floor as they passed. Nari turned her head sharply and said something in their language. The warrior lowered her eyes and walked away quickly. What did you say to her? Daeho asked. I reminded her that disrespecting my chosen is the same as disrespecting me. Nari replied calmly. She will not make that mistake again. They arrived at a large room with a wide window looking out into space. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue and white marble floating in darkness. Daeho felt his chest tighten. He was really here. Really in space. Really with aliens. These will be your quarters, Nari said. They connect to mine through that door. If you need anything, I am always close. The room was large and surprisingly comfortable. There was a bed that looked human-sized, a desk with strange devices on it, and a small bathroom. Everything was clean and organized. Thank you, Daeho said quietly. He did not know what else to say. Nari watched him for a moment. You are afraid of me, it was not a question. Daeho considered lying, then decided against it. A little. You are very intense. To his surprise, Nari smiled. It was a small smile, but real. That is fair. I am a warrior. I have fought in over 300 battles. I have killed enemies and defended my people. But I do not wish to frighten you, Daeho. I wish to know you. Why? Daeho asked. You could have anyone. Why choose a random human who writes computer code for a living? Nari sat down on a bench near the window. She moved with perfect control, every motion efficient and precise. Among my people, we have lost something important. We are strong, yes. We can conquer worlds. We can win any fight, but we have forgotten how to be more than warriors. She gestured for Daeho to sit beside her. He did, keeping a respectful distance. Humans are different, she continued. You feel things deeply. You create art and music. You solve problems in ways we never consider. You adapt to anything. This is why we came to Earth, not to conquer, but to learn. To remember what we used to be before we turned ourselves into weapons. Daeho processed this slowly. So this is an experiment. You want to study us? No, Nari said firmly. This is not an experiment. When I chose you, it was not because of data or research. It was because something inside me recognized something inside you. A connection. My people call it the pull. It is rare, but when it happens, we do not ignore it. Before Daeho could respond, the door opened. Another Valen female entered. She was shorter than Nari, but still taller than Daeho. With dark blue armor and sharp eyes, She looked at Daeho like he was a bug she might step on. "Commander," the woman said in English. "The crew is talking. They question your judgment in bringing this human aboard." Nari stood up slowly. "Lieutenant Sora, meet Daeho Kim. Daeho, this is my second in command and closest friend." Sora did not offer a greeting. "With respect, Commander, he looks weak. How can he stand beside you as an equal?" "Strength is not only physical," Nari replied. "You will see this in time." Sora looked unconvinced but bowed her head. "As you command." She left without another word. Daeho let out a breath he had been holding. "She really does not like me." "She does not trust easily," Nari said. "But neither did I once. You will prove yourself to her, and to the others." Over the next few days, Daeho tried to find his place on the ship. It was not easy. The Valen had their own routines and customs. They trained constantly, fighting in practice arenas with weapons that looked deadly. They ate food that was too spicy for Daeho's taste. They spoke in their own language most of the time, only switching to English when they remembered he was there. But Nari was patient with him. She taught him basic phrases in Valen. She explained their traditions. One evening, she brought him what she called a courting gift. It was a small crystal that glowed in the dark. "This crystal comes from my homeworld," she explained. "We give them to those we wish to bond with. It represents the light we see in each other." Daeho held it carefully. "It is beautiful. But Nari, in human culture, we usually date first. Get to know each other slowly." "This is all happening very fast. How long does human dating take?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Months, years sometimes. We go to dinner, watch movies, talk about our lives. We do not just decide to be together immediately." Nari considered this. "Then we will do those things. I wish to understand human courtship. Will you teach me?" And so began a strange period of adjustment. Daeho tried to explain human romance to an alien warrior who thought the best way to impress someone was to defeat their enemies in combat. He showed her Earth movies on a tablet he had brought. Nari watched them with intense focus, trying to understand why humans found certain things romantic. "So the male brings flowers?" she asked after one movie. "Yes, usually. Why? They are just plants. They die quickly. That is kind of the point. They are beautiful but temporary. It is symbolic." Nari looked confused but nodded. "I will remember this." The next day, Nari presented him with a plant she had found in the ship's garden. It had purple leaves and smelled terrible. Daeho tried not to laugh. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "It is very unique." Nari looked pleased with herself. She was trying. That meant something. 1 week after arriving on the ship, something happened that changed everything. The Crimson Talon received a distress call from a nearby station. The ship's main power system was failing. Without help, hundreds of Valen would die. The engineering team tried to help remotely but could not figure out the problem. Daeho listened to them struggle for hours. Finally, he approached Nari. "I think I know what is wrong," he said quietly. Nari looked at him with surprise. "You understand our technology?" "Some of it. I have been studying the systems. Your power grid is similar to Earth's in some ways. I think the problem is not mechanical. It is a software error. The system is stuck in a loop." Nari called her engineering team. They were skeptical but desperate enough to listen. Daeho explained his theory in simple terms. He showed them where the code was failing. Within an hour, the station's power was restored. The chief engineer, a gruff male named Torin, stared at Daeho with new respect. "The human fixed what we could not. Impressive." After that day, the crew looked at Daeho differently. He was no longer just the commander's strange choice. He was someone useful, someone valuable. Even Lieutenant Sora softened slightly. She stopped glaring at him in the hallways. Once, she even nodded at him in what might have been respect. That night, Nari came to his quarters. She looked at him with something in her eyes that Daeho had not seen before. "Pride. You proved yourself today," she said. "Not with strength or weapons, but with your mind. This is why I chose you, Daeho Kim. You see solutions where we see only obstacles." Daeho felt his face grow warm. "I was just doing what I know how to do." "That is enough," Nari said softly. "That is more than enough." For the first time since leaving Earth, Daeho felt like maybe he belonged here. Maybe this was not a mistake after all. 2 months had passed since Daeho left Earth. He had settled into a routine aboard the Crimson Talon. Every morning he worked with the engineering team, helping them improve their systems. In the afternoons he studied Valen history and culture. And in the evenings, he spent time with Nari. They were getting to know each other slowly, carefully. Nari still did not fully understand human emotions, but she was learning. She asked questions constantly. Why did humans cry when they were happy? Why did they laugh at things that were not funny? Why did they hug each other so much? Deho answered as best he could. In return, Nari taught him about Valen ways. She explained their concept of honor, which was different from human honor. For the Valen, honor meant keeping your word no matter what. It meant protecting those weaker than you. It meant never backing down from a challenge, but also knowing when to show mercy. We are not as brutal as you might think, Nari said one evening. They were sitting in her private quarters looking out at the stars. We fight only when necessary, but we are very good at it, so other species fear us. Do you enjoy fighting? Deho asked. Nari was quiet for a moment. I used to. When I was young, battle was everything. It gave me purpose, but lately, I have begun to wonder if there is more to life than conquest. What changed? She looked at him with those sharp eyes. You did. Spending time with you has made me question things I never questioned before. You solve problems without violence. You create instead of destroy. You show me a different way to be strong. Deho felt his heart beat faster. I am not strong like you. I cannot fight, I cannot protect anyone. You protect with your mind, Nari replied. That is just as valuable. Maybe more so. She reached out and touched his hand. It was the first time she had initiated physical contact beyond formal gestures. Her hand was warm and rough from years of holding weapons, but her touch was gentle. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Nari was on her feet instantly, her warrior instincts taking over. Stay here, she commanded. Then she was gone, running toward the bridge. Deho could not stay. He needed to know what was happening. He followed at a distance, keeping to the walls. When he reached the bridge, he saw the command crew gathered around a holographic display. A small ship floated in space ahead of them. It was damaged and leaking atmosphere. It is a merchant vessel, Lieutenant Sora reported. The species is Torvak. They are requesting assistance. The Torvak are neutral, another officer said. We should help them. Or we could ignore them, a different voice suggested. We have no obligation to non-Valen. Nari stood silent, considering. Deho could see the conflict on her face. The old Valen way would be to ignore the ship. Other species were not their concern. But something had changed in her. We will help them, Nari decided. Prepare a rescue team. Commander, Deho said, stepping forward. Everyone turned to look at him. Let me come with you. I might be able to help with their systems. Absolutely not, Nari said immediately. It is too dangerous. You said I protect with my mind. Let me use it now. If their systems are damaged, your warriors will not know how to fix them. But I might. Nari looked torn. Finally, she nodded. You may come, but you stay close to me at all times. If I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Understood. The rescue team suited up in protective gear. Deho wore a smaller suit designed for human guests. It felt heavy and awkward. Nari checked his seals herself, making sure everything was secure. Remember, she said quietly, her voice coming through his helmet speaker. Stay with me. They crossed to the damaged ship through a connecting tunnel. Inside, the Torvak crew was desperate and frightened. They were insect-like beings with multiple limbs and compound eyes. When they saw the Valen warriors, they backed away in fear. We are here to help, Nari announced in a language that the ship's computer translated. Show us your damage. The Torvak captain, a large female with green carapace, led them to the engine room. The system was a mess of fried circuits and leaking coolant. The Valen engineers shook their heads. This was beyond their expertise. Deho stepped forward. He studied the system carefully, ignoring the nervous clicking sounds the Torvak made. The design was unfamiliar, but the principles were universal. Energy needed to flow from point A to point B. Right now, it was blocked. "I need tools," he said, "and someone to help me hold these panels." For the next 2 hours, Daeho worked on the ship's systems. He rerouted power, bypassed damaged circuits, and rebuilt what he could. Nari stayed nearby, watching him work with fascination. She had never seen him so focused, so confident. Finally, the engines hummed back to life. The Torvak erupted in clicking cheers. Their captain approached Daeho and bowed low. "You have saved us, small one," the captain said through the translator. "We are in your debt." "No debt," Daeho replied. "We help because it is the right thing to do." The captain looked at Nari. "Your mate is wise and skilled. You have chosen well, Valen warrior." Back on the Crimson Talon, the crew gathered to hear about the rescue. Word spread quickly that the human had fixed what the Valen engineers could not. More importantly, Commander, Nari had chosen to help another species instead of ignoring them. This was unusual. This was new. Lieutenant Sora approached Daeho in the mess hall that evening. She sat down across from him without asking permission. "You did well today," she said stiffly. "I may have been wrong about you." Daeho smiled. "Thank you, Lieutenant. That means a lot." Sora nodded. "The commander is different since you arrived. Softer, but also stronger. You are good for her." She stood up and walked away before Daeho could respond. That night, Nari came to his quarters again. But this time, she did not just stand in the doorway. She came inside and sat beside him on the bed. "Today I watched you save lives without weapons or violence," she said quietly. "I have spent my whole life fighting, but you showed me another kind of strength." "I was just doing what needed to be done," Daeho replied. "That is what makes you special," Nari said. She reached up and touched his face gently. "You do not think of yourself as special, but you are. To me, you are everything I did not know I needed." Daeho felt tears prick his eyes. He had been so afraid when this started, afraid of leaving Earth, afraid of this powerful alien warrior, afraid of the unknown. But now, looking into Nari's eyes, he was not afraid anymore. "I want to stay with you," he said softly. "Not because I am stuck here, not because I have no choice, but because this feels right. You feel right." Nari smiled, a full, genuine smile that transformed her face. "Then we will make it official. Tomorrow, we will perform the bonding ceremony. You will be mine, and I will be yours. Forever." "Forever is a long time," Daeho said. "For you, it is not long enough," Nari whispered. She leaned forward and kissed him. It was awkward at first because Valen did not kiss the way humans did. But they learned together, finding their own rhythm. And in that moment, Daeho knew he had made the right choice. He had found something impossible, something wonderful. He had found love among the stars. The bonding ceremony had been beautiful. Nari wore traditional armor decorated with crystals. Daeho wore robes that combined human and Valen styles. The crew gathered to witness their union, even those who had doubted him at first. When Nari spoke her vows in both languages, her voice was strong and clear. When Daeho spoke his hands trembled. But his words were true. They were bonded now, partners, mates, forever linked by Valen law and tradition. 3 weeks later, they received orders to travel to Kyraxis, the Valen homeworld. The High Command wanted to meet the humans who had bonded with their warriors. Nari was summoned to report on the integration program. Daeho would come with her. "Is this dangerous?" Daeho asked as they prepared for the journey. "Politics are always dangerous," Nari replied. "But I will not let anyone harm you. That is my promise." Kyraxis was massive. The entire planet was covered in cities built from black stone and metal. Ships filled the skies like birds. Military bases dotted the surface. Everything about it screamed power and strength. The Imperial Palace sat at the planet's center, a fortress that could survive anything. When Daeho and Nari arrived, they were met by guards in gold armor. These were the Empress's personal soldiers, the elite of the elite. Inside, they found dozens of other human Valen pairs. Daiho felt relief seeing other humans. They exchanged quick smiles and nods, finding comfort in familiar faces. One woman approached him during a break in the proceedings. "I am Dr. Hana Yoon," she said in Korean. Hearing his native language made Daiho's chest tight with homesickness. "I was one of the first humans selected. I study the biological compatibility between our species." "What have you learned?" Daiho asked. "That we are more compatible than anyone expected. Hybrid children are possible. But there are forces here who see that as a threat, not a gift." She glanced around nervously. "Be careful, Daiho. Not everyone supports this program." Before he could ask more questions, they were called into the Grand Council chamber. The room was enormous, with high ceilings and walls covered in battle honors. At the center sat the Empress, an ancient Valen with silver eyes and a crown made of star metal. But Daiho's attention was drawn to another figure. Admiral Jiwon stood near the throne, her face cold and her eyes filled with contempt. She wore armor decorated with the skulls of defeated enemies. Everything about her radiated danger. The Empress spoke. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "We gather to discuss the future of the Human Integration Program. Some say it makes us stronger. Others say it makes us weak. We will hear both sides." Nari stepped forward to speak in defense of the program. She described how humans had improved ship operations, solved problems the Valen could not, and brought new perspectives. She spoke of the rescue of the Torvak ship and how Daiho's skills had saved lives. Then Admiral Jiwon spoke. "The commander speaks of one success. But at what cost? We are warriors. We have conquered hundreds of worlds through strength alone. Humans are weak. They cry, they hesitate. They question orders. If we allow them into our society, they will corrupt everything we have built. Strength without wisdom is just brutality," Daiho said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at him. He had not planned to speak, but the words came out anyway. "You say humans are weak because we feel emotions. But emotions are not weakness. They are what make life worth living. You have ships and weapons and power. But what do you have all that power for? What are you protecting?" Admiral Jiwon's eyes narrowed. "How dare a human question our ways?" "He dares because he speaks truth," Nari said firmly. "Something we claim to value." The Empress raised a hand for silence. "Enough. We will continue this discussion tomorrow. All parties are dismissed." That night, Daiho could not sleep. He stood on the balcony of their guest quarters, looking out at the city. Nari joined him, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. "You were brave today," she said. "I was probably stupid," Daiho replied. "That admiral looks like she wants to kill me." "She would have to go through me first," Nari said with steel in her voice. The next morning, Dr. Hana Yoon found Daiho in the palace gardens. She looked frightened. "I need to show you something," she whispered. "But we must be careful. If they know I told you, they will silence me." She led him through hidden passages to a restricted area deep in the palace. Through a window, Daiho saw holding cells. Inside were humans. They looked sick and scared. Scientists in white coats were running tests on them. "What is this?" Daiho breathed. "A secret program," Hana said. "Admiral Jiwon convinced the council to allow experiments on volunteers. But these people are not volunteers. They were taken. She is trying to prove that humans are incompatible with Valen society. She wants to justify eliminating the integration program completely." "We have to tell someone," Daiho said. "Who?" "Admiral Jiwon has allies in the high command. If we speak out without proof, we will disappear too." Hana handed him a data chip. "I have been gathering evidence. Medical records. Security footage. Everything we need to expose this. But I cannot do it alone. Will you help me?" Daiho took the chip. His hands were shaking, but his resolve was firm. "Yes, I will help." Over the next 3 days, Daiho and Hana worked in secret. They copied files from secure databases. They recorded conversations. They built a case that could not be ignored, but they were not as careful as they thought. On the 4th night, soldiers burst into Daiho's quarters. Nari fought them, taking down 3 before they overwhelmed her with shock weapons. Daiho tried to run but was caught immediately. They dragged both of them to a detention cell. Admiral Jiwon stood outside their cell, smiling coldly. "Did you think you could spy on me and go unpunished? You are a fool, human. And you, Commander Nari, have betrayed your own people for this weak creature. The only traitor here is you." Nari spat. "You dishonor our entire species with your cruelty." "Honor?" Jiwon laughed. "I will show you honor. Tomorrow at dawn, your human will be executed publicly. You will watch him die knowing it is your fault for choosing weakness over strength. Then you will be stripped of rank and imprisoned for the rest of your life. Jiwon walked away, leaving them alone in the cell. Daiho sat down heavily. I am sorry. I should have been more careful. Nari knelt beside him. Do not apologize for being brave. You tried to save innocent lives. That is never wrong. We are going to die, Daiho said quietly. Maybe, Nari replied, but we are not dead yet. And while we live, we fight. She pressed her forehead against his. Whatever happens tomorrow, know this. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Bonding with you was not a mistake. It was the only truly good choice I ever made. Daiho held her close. He was terrified, but he was not alone. And somehow that made all the difference. Outside their cell, Lieutenant Sora watched from the shadows. She had heard everything, and she was making a decision that would change the fate of the entire empire. Dawn came too quickly. Daiho had not slept. He sat with Nari in their cell, holding her hand, trying to memorize every detail of her face. If these were his last hours, he wanted to spend them with her. I love you, he said quietly. They were words he had been afraid to say before. But there was no more time for fear. Nari's eyes grew bright. In my language, we say Krishna. It means my soul recognizes your soul. I love you, Daiho Kim, in this life and whatever comes after. The cell door suddenly exploded inward. Smoke filled the air. Through it came Lieutenant Sora, carrying 2 weapons. She tossed one to Nari. Get up, Sora commanded. We are leaving, now. Nari stared at her friend in shock. Sora, what are you doing? This is treason. So is letting an innocent die, Sora replied. You taught me that honor means protecting the weak. Well, I am protecting him. Now move before the guards arrive. They ran through the palace corridors. Alarms blared. Soldiers appeared, but Sora and Nari fought them off with brutal efficiency. Daiho stayed between them, running as fast as he could, trying not to slow them down. They reached a side entrance where a small transport ship waited. Inside was Dr. Hana Yoon and 3 other humans with their Valen partners. More rebels, everyone is here, Hana said urgently. We need to go. The ship lifted off just as guards reached the landing pad. Energy blasts hit the shields, making the ship shake. But they were already rising, pushing toward orbit. Where are we going? Daiho asked. The Crimson Talon, Nari replied. My crew is loyal. They will help us. But when they reached orbit, they found a problem. A dozen warships surrounded the Crimson Talon, Admiral Jiwon's fleet. They were trapped. A communication came through. Jiwon's face appeared on the screen, furious. Commander Nari, you are surrounded. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. Resist, and I will destroy your ship with everyone aboard. Nari stood tall. You will have to try, Admiral. I do not surrender to traitors, Jiwon's smile was cold. So be it. All ships prepare to fire. Daiho's mind raced. They could not fight 12 warships. They needed help. But who would help them? Then he remembered something. The data chip from Hana, the evidence of Jiwon's crimes. Wait, he said. Hana, do you still have the evidence? Can we broadcast it? Hana pulled out the chip. Yes, but to who? Jiwon controls all official channels. Not all of them, Daiho said. He ran to the ship's communication console. His fingers flew over the controls. He had spent months learning Valen technology. He knew their systems better than they thought. What are you doing? Nari asked. Something crazy, Daiho replied. I am going to broadcast this evidence on every frequency. Military channels, civilian networks, even entertainment broadcasts. Everyone in the Empire will see what Jiwon has done. They will trace the signal, Sora warned. They will know we are broadcasting. I know, Daiho said. But we have to try. He uploaded the files and hit send. Across the entire Valen Empire, billions of citizens suddenly saw the truth. Video footage of humans being experimented on. Medical records showing torture and cruelty. Audio recordings of Jiwon planning to eliminate all human Valen pairs. The reaction was immediate. On Kyraxis, crowds gathered in the streets demanding answers. On other worlds, Valen warriors who had bonded with humans rose up in protest. Even some of Jiwon's own soldiers began to question their orders. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Jiwon watched her careful plans crumble. Fire! She screamed. Destroy them all. But her ships did not fire. One by one, their commanders refused the order. Some disconnected from the fleet entirely. Others broadcast messages of support for Nari and the humans. Then something unexpected happened. A massive ship dropped out of hyperspace. It was the Empress's personal dreadnought accompanied by the Royal Guard. The Empress herself appeared on every screen. "Admiral Jiwan," the Empress said, her voice filled with cold fury, "you have committed crimes against the Empire and against honor itself. You are relieved of command. Surrender immediately or face destruction." Jiwan's face went pale. She had gambled everything and lost. "This is not over," she hissed. "The humans will destroy us from within." "You will see." "Silence," the Empress commanded. "Take her into custody." Royal Guards boarded Jiwan's ship. Within minutes, the Admiral was in chains. Her fleet surrendered without a fight. The Empress contacted the Crimson Talon directly. "Commander Nari, you and your companions will return to Caraxus under my personal protection. We have much to discuss." Nari bowed even though the Empress could not see her. "Yes, Your Majesty." As the connection ended, the ship erupted in relieved laughter and tears. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had won. Nari pulled Deho into a crushing embrace. "You did it. You saved us all." "We saved each other," Deho corrected. "I could not have done any of this without you. Without all of you." Sora approached them, a rare smile on her face. "The human is right. We are stronger together than apart." "I see that now," Dr. Hanayun hugged Deho tightly. "We freed them," she whispered. "All those people in the cells. They are being released right now. You gave them back their lives." Deho felt overwhelmed. A month ago, he was just a software engineer living a quiet life. Now he had helped expose a conspiracy, fought against an empire's darkest secrets, and survived. More importantly, he had found a family among the stars, people who believed in him, people who would fight for him, but the fight was not over yet. Admiral G1 was defeated, but there would be consequences. Political upheaval, challenges from traditionalists who still opposed the human integration, and most critically, they still had to face the Empress and explain everything. As the Crimson Talon prepared to return to Kyraxis, Deho stood at the viewing window with Nari beside him. The homeworld hung in space before them, massive and intimidating. "Are you afraid?" Nari asked. "Terrified," Deho admitted, "but also hopeful. We proved that humans and Valen can work together. We proved that your way and our way can combine to create something better. That has to count for something." Nari squeezed his hand. "It counts for everything. The future is uncertain, but we will face it together. Always together." "Always," Deho agreed. The ship descended toward Caraxis. Whatever came next, they would face it as one. Human and Valen, bonded, united, ready for whatever the universe threw at them. The Grand Council chamber was packed. Every important Valen leader had gathered to witness the trial of Admiral G1. But this was more than just a trial. It was a moment that would define the future of the entire empire. Deho stood beside Nari in the witness area. Around them were other human Valen pairs, all watching nervously. In chains at the center of the room stood Admiral Jiwan. Even now, defeated and captured, she looked dangerous. Her eyes burned with hatred as she stared at Deho. The Empress sat on her throne, silver eyes taking in everything. "Admiral Jiwan, you are accused of crimes against the Empire. Unauthorized imprisonment, illegal experimentation, conspiracy to commit genocide. How do you answer these charges?" Jiwan lifted her chin defiantly. "I answer that I did what was necessary. The humans are a threat to everything we are. They make us soft. They make us question our strength. I tried to save our species from this corruption. You tortured innocent people," Dr. Hanayun said from the witness stand. "I have the medical records, the psychological evaluations. What you did was evil, not protective." "Evil?" Jiwan laughed. "Humans speak of evil while their own world tears itself apart with wars and hatred. You are no better than us. Worse, perhaps, because you pretend to be noble while destroying yourselves. That is exactly why we need each other," Deho said, stepping forward. All eyes turned to him. "You are right, Admiral. Humans are not perfect. We fight, we make mistakes. We hurt each other. But we also learn. We grow, we change. That is what you have lost. The ability to change. We do not need to change," Jiwan spat. "We are already perfect warriors." "And what happens when there are no more wars to fight?" Deho asked. "What happens when you have conquered everything? What will give your lives meaning then? You cannot be warriors forever. Eventually you have to be something else. Something more." Silence filled the chamber. Even the Empress looked thoughtful. Jiwan's face twisted with rage. You know nothing, human. You are an insect pretending to be important because one warrior was foolish enough to choose you. Careful, Admiral, the Empress warned. You insult Commander Nari with your words. I insult no one, Jiwan said. I speak truth. If the commander has a problem with truth, then let her challenge me. I invoke the right of combat. Let us settle this the old way. If she wins, I accept my punishment. If I win, the human integration program ends forever. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. The right of combat was ancient Valen tradition. Any warrior could demand trial by battle instead of legal judgment. It was considered the purest form of justice. Nari stepped forward without hesitation. I accept. No, Deho said urgently, grabbing her arm. This is a trap. She wants to fight you. I know, Nari replied calmly, but I cannot refuse. It would dishonor me and everything we have fought for. She might kill you. Nari cupped his face gently. Then you will know I fought for something worth dying for. But I do not plan to die today. The Empress stood. Very well. The challenge is accepted. We will convene in the Imperial Arena at sunset. Prepare yourselves. The next hours passed in a blur. Nari prepared in silence, checking her armor and weapons. Lieutenant Sora helped her, offering advice and encouragement. Deho felt useless. He could not fight. He could not protect her. All he could do was watch and pray. You are worried, Sora said to him. That is good. It means you love her. But do not doubt her. Nari is one of the finest warriors alive. She will not lose. Admiral Jiwan has more combat experience, Deho said quietly. I looked up her record. 300 victories, no defeats. Records do not win battles, Sora replied. Heart does, and Nari fights for love. That makes her stronger than any record. Sunset came. The Imperial Arena was enormous, a circular space surrounded by thousands of seats. Every seat was filled. Valen from across the Empire had gathered to witness this historic combat. At one end stood Admiral Jiwan, her armor dark and covered in weapon scars. At the other end stood Nari, her red-marked armor gleaming. Deho sat in the front row with the other humans. His hands gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. The Empress raised her hand. Warriors, you know the rules. Fight with honor. The battle ends when one cannot continue or when one yields. Begin. Jiwan attacked immediately, moving with terrifying speed. Her blade sang through the air. Nari blocked, the impact sending sparks flying. They circled each other, testing defenses, looking for weaknesses. Jiwan was brutal and efficient. Every strike was meant to kill. But Nari was faster, more agile. She ducked and weaved, turning defense into offense. Their blades clashed again and again, the sound echoing through the arena. Minutes stretched into an hour. Both warriors were bleeding now, their armor dented and cracked. The crowd watched in absolute silence, transfixed by the display of skill and determination. Jiwan landed a solid hit, her blade cutting across Nari's shoulder. Nari stumbled back, blood flowing. Deho half rose from his seat, but Sora pulled him back down. Trust her, Sora whispered fiercely. Nari looked up at Deho. Their eyes met across the distance, and in that moment something passed between them. Strength, love, purpose. Nari stood up straight. The pain in her shoulder did not matter. Nothing mattered except protecting what they had built together. She attacked with renewed fury, pressing Jiwan back step by step. Jiwan tried to counter, but she was tiring. All her experience, all her victories could not match Nari's motivation. Finally, Nari saw her opening. She feinted left, then struck right. Her blade caught Jiwan's weapon and sent it flying across the arena. Nari's blade came to rest at Jiwan's throat. Yield, Nari commanded. Jiwan's eyes blazed with fury and shame. Never. Kill me if you must, but I will not yield to weakness. This is not weakness, Nari said quietly. This is evolution. The strong do not fear change. They embrace it. But you are too afraid to see that, she lowered her blade. I will not kill you, Admiral. That would make me no better than you. You will live. You will serve your sentence. And maybe one day you will understand what you tried to destroy. The arena erupted in cheers. Valen and humans alike rose to their feet, celebrating the victory. Guards came to take Jiwan away. She went quietly, defeated in every way that mattered. Deho ran onto the arena floor. Nari was swaying, exhausted and bleeding. He caught her before she fell. You did it, he said, tears streaming down his face. You won. We won, Nari corrected. I fought for us. For our future. And I would do it again, 1,000 times over. The Empress descended from her seat to stand before them. Commander Nari, you have proven yourself worthy of the highest honor. From this day forward, you are promoted to High Admiral. You will oversee the integration program and ensure its success. She turned to Deho. And you, human, have shown wisdom beyond your years. You are appointed as the first human ambassador to the Valen Empire. Together, you two will build bridges between our peoples. Deho bowed, deeply overwhelmed. We are honored, Your Majesty. The Empress smiled, a rare expression. The honor is mine. You have given my empire hope for a better future. Do not waste it. As they left the arena together, Nari leaning on Deho for support, he realized something profound. They had started as strangers from different worlds, but they had become something more. Partners, equals, proof that the impossible was possible. The battle was over, but their journey was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the trial. The Empire had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The human integration program was no longer controversial. It was celebrated. Hundreds of new human-Valen pairs formed every week. Children were being born, the first generation of hybrids who carried the best traits of both species. Deho stood in his office on Caraxus, looking out at the city. His office was modest compared to the grand military buildings around it, but it was his. The first human embassy in Valen space, a symbol of everything they had achieved. Nari entered quietly, moving up behind him and wrapping her arms around his waist. Even after all this time, her touch still made his heart race. You should be resting, he said gently. Dr. Hana said you need more sleep. I will rest later, Nari replied. Right now I want to be with you. Deho turned to face her. Her hand rested on her stomach where their child grew. A daughter, Dr. Hana had told them. Half human, half Valen. The first of many. Are you nervous? Nari asked. About tonight? Tonight was their official wedding ceremony. The bonding had made them mates by Valen law. But they wanted to honor human traditions too, so they planned a celebration that combined both cultures. A feast with Valen honor rituals and human vows. Music from Earth and war drums from Caraxus. Friends from two worlds coming together. A little, Deho admitted. My friend Minho is arriving from Earth today. I have not seen him since I left. I wonder if he will forgive me for disappearing like that. He will, Nari said confidently. You saved his world from being conquered. You built peace between our peoples. He would be a fool not to forgive you. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lieutenant Sora entered, no longer in military armor but in formal diplomatic robes. She had been appointed as Nari's chief advisor and had embraced her new role with the same intensity she brought to combat. High Admiral, Ambassador, Sora said formally. Then her face softened into a smile. Your Earth friend has arrived. He is waiting in the reception hall. And he brought someone with him. Deho hurried to the reception hall. There stood Minho Park, looking older but healthy. And beside him was a Valen female warrior with kind eyes and protective posture. Minho. Deho ran forward and hugged his friend tightly. Minho hugged him back just as hard. You crazy man. You really did it. You married an alien warrior and changed the galaxy. I had help, Deho said, laughing. He looked at the Valen woman. And who is this? Minho's face turned red. This is Captain Rena. She came to Earth as part of the cultural exchange program. We met and, well, one thing led to another. Rena bowed respectfully. Your friend talks about you constantly, Ambassador. It is an honor to meet the human who started all this. I did not start it alone, Deho said. And please call me Deho. We are all friends here. The afternoon passed quickly as old friends caught up and new friendships formed. Minho told stories about Earth, how humans were adjusting to having alien neighbors. Some feared the Valen, others welcomed them. But slowly understanding was growing. The Valen helped us solve our energy crisis, Minho explained. And we taught them about art and music and all the things they forgot how to create. It is working, Deho. Your crazy plan is actually working. As the sun set, guests began arriving for the ceremony. The great hall had been transformed. Valen wore banners hung beside human flags. Tables were set with food from both worlds. A stage held instruments from Earth and Caraxus. Dr. Hana Yoon arrived with her Valen partner, a gentle scientist named Torin. Lieutenant Sora came with a human engineer she had bonded with recently. Dozens of other couples filled the hall. proof that what had started with Daiho and Nari had spread throughout both civilizations. The Empress herself attended, a rare honor. She sat in a place of respect, watching everything with those ancient silver eyes. When the ceremony began, Daiho stood at the altar wearing a suit from Earth combined with Valen decorations. Nari walked down the aisle in a white dress that had been modified to accommodate her warrior build. She looked beautiful and fierce at the same time. Perfectly her. They exchanged vows in both languages. Daiho promised to stand beside her always, to support her dreams, to raise their daughter with love and wisdom. Nari promised to protect him, to learn from him, to build a future where their child would never know the divisions that once separated their peoples. When they kissed, the entire hall erupted in cheers. Valen warriors roared their approval. Humans clapped and whistled. It was beautiful chaos, two cultures celebrating together. The feast that followed was magnificent. Stories were shared. Songs were sung. Daiho taught some Valen warriors how to dance human style, which resulted in several broken tables but much laughter. Nari showed human guests traditional Valen combat displays, which everyone found thrilling. Late in the evening, the Empress requested a private word with Daiho and Nari. They met her on a balcony overlooking the city lights. "I wanted to thank you both personally," the Empress said. "When I approved the integration program, I hoped it would strengthen our empire. But you have done more than that. You have reminded us what we lost when we became only warriors. You have given us back our souls." "We only showed you what was already there," Nari replied. "The capacity for change was always within our people. We just needed a reason to embrace it," the Empress smiled. "Your child will be the first of a new generation, neither fully human nor fully Valen, but something greater. I look forward to seeing what they become." After the Empress left, Daiho and Nari stood alone under the stars. These were not Earth stars. These were new stars in a new sky. But they felt like home. "Do you ever regret it?" Nari asked quietly. "Leaving Earth? Giving up your old life?" Daiho thought about the question seriously. He thought about his small apartment in Seoul, his quiet job, his predictable life. Then he thought about everything he had now. A wife who would fight armies for him, friends who had become family, a daughter on the way who would grow up knowing two worlds, a purpose that mattered, not even for a second, he said. "That day you chose me in the crowd. You gave me something I did not even know I needed. Adventure, purpose, love that crosses worlds. How could I regret that?" "I thought you were weak at first," Nari admitted. "Small, fragile, but I was wrong. You have a different kind of strength. The strength to believe in impossible things. To see connections where others see only differences. That strength changed me. Changed all of us." She placed his hand on her stomach. "Our daughter will have both kinds of strength. Yours and mine. Human adaptability and Valen determination. She will be unstoppable. She will be loved," Daiho said. "That is the most important thing." They stood together looking out at a future full of possibilities. The integration program would continue. More humans would come to Valen space. More Valen would visit Earth. Children would grow up knowing that the universe was bigger and more wonderful than any one species. There would still be challenges. Some Valen would resist change. Some humans would fear the unknown. But the foundation had been laid. Trust had been built. Love had proven stronger than prejudice. "When I first saw you in that crowd," Nari said softly, "I felt something I had never felt before. A pull. An instinct that told me you were important. I did not understand it then, but I do now. You were not just my mate. You were my destiny." "Destiny is just another word for choice," Daiho replied. "You chose me. I chose you. We chose this life together. That is more powerful than any fate." Nari pulled him close. "Then I choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life. And I choose you," Daiho whispered. "My ruthless warrior who picked me not for battle but for love." They kissed as fireworks exploded overhead, a display arranged by both human and Valen engineers working together. The lights painted the sky in colors that had never been seen before, symbols of a future that was just beginning. In the great hall below, their friends celebrated. On Earth, humans looked up at the stars with new hope. Across the Valen Empire, warriors learned to dream again. And in that moment, standing together under alien stars, Daiho and Nari knew that they had found something rare and precious. Not just love, but understanding. Not just unity, but true partnership. They had proven that the greatest victories are not won through conquest. They are won through connection. Through choosing to see past differences and find the common ground that links all thinking beings. The future stretched before them, full of challenges and wonders. But whatever came next, they would face it together, human and Valen, different but united, proof that love could bridge any divide, overcome any obstacle, and build something beautiful from two completely different worlds. This was their story, and it was just the beginning.